Tonight on Joy News Prime, the Ghana Health Service is worried Ghanaians in need of health care seem to be avoiding hospitals over fears they could contract COVID-19, saying it could leave the country with another problem.
We have had immunization services coverage coming down. We've had growth promotion of children coming down, coverage coming down. Antenatal and outpatient attendances are declining.
Meanwhile, on the country's COVID-19 case count, the health service says Ghana is at the peak of the curve and that it is entirely up to Ghanaians if the curve is to be flattened.
So responding directly to the question where you are at the peak of the curve, yet to come down.
In another development, the Information Minister is urging civil society groups and religious bodies to weigh in on the politicization of issues having to do with the COVID-19 pandemic.
What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Let's be honest in this country. If we don't want politics in this matter like we are preaching it, when people start politicizing it, the faith-based groups, the religious leaders, the civil society organizations, the media, call it out.
Also on Joy News Prime, 15 Togolese and 8 Burkinabés arrested for crossing illegally into the country. And government claims vindication after the Supreme Court upheld government's military cooperation agreement with the United States.
Have been vindicated, or at least we those who do that have been vindicated by this, by the results or by the judgment that was given today. But like I said to them, anybody who thinks that it's not a good agreement has the option to face that. We didn't want to skip 10 years, 5 years and tie anybody's hands.
And in business,
Association of Ghana Industries calls for clear strategy from government to propel industry as it takes a hit from COVID-19 pandemic.
So you need to have a clear strategy. And it is even becoming more critical under the Continental Free Trade Agreement, where Africa is opening its doors for us, and we're also opening our doors for Africa.
I'm Israel Lai, anchoring from home, and remember, Joy News Prime is live on digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air.
And my name is Aisha Ibrahim, coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlimle on digital address GA0992539. The bulletin is also live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Please stay tuned in.
In our very first story, the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service says Ghana could begin to see a decline in the rate of increase in its COVID-19 infections if people will strictly observe the protocols introduced to fight the pandemic, saying the country is currently at the peak of the curve. In an answer to a question at the Ministry of Information COVID-19 News Conference, Dr. Bedu Sarkodie says a lot now depends on the attitudes of Ghanaians. The Director General of the service, Dr. Patrick Abuaje, is meanwhile warning the country could have another crisis on its hands as more Ghanaians refuse to visit health facilities over fears they could pick up COVID-19 infections. Maxwell Agbagba has more.
The Director of Public Health, Dr. Bedu Sarkodie, was responding to a question of where Ghana currently is on the infection curve.
And now, with the cases that we are testing, clearly, we seem as a country to be on top of the peak, and we are at a stage to decline. That is the observation now. The declination will depend on how we adhere to the various preventive etiquettes that have been enumerated. We are not off the hook yet, but then if we continue the way we are doing now, by adhering to the various social distancing, adhering to the various individual preventive measures, wearing of masks, keeping away a distance from others. These are the things, when we do intensively, will let us come down from where we are. So responding directly to the question where you are at the peak of the curve, yet to come down. But then the only thing to make us come down by strict adherence to the various preventive etiquettes.
The Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Abuaje, was quite concerned that there has been a decline in recent weeks in the number of people who usually go to hospitals for other health care.
The disease has started affecting other sectors, including the health sector. At the first quarter of our review, we have had immunization services coverage coming down. We've had growth promotion of children coming down, coverage coming down. Antenatal and outpatient attendances are declining. If this goes on, it will have consequential effects on the health outcomes in the end. Measures have been put in place that allows us to be able to provide services for you in safety, safeguarding you. So we're encouraging all to make access care so that we do not have another challenge on our hands because of reduced access to care. What it means is that people who are sick may not be seeking care, and that is not what we want.
Head of Virology at the Noguchi Memorial Institute, Professor William Ampofu, meanwhile says Ghana has almost cleared its backlog of samples to be tested, and that the other major testing facility in Kumasi should be done with its backlog of nearly 2,000 by Thursday.
So I just cross-checked with Professor Richard Phillips of KCCR, and he has 1,982 samples awaiting testing. It was 3,500 yesterday, so they worked all night. And he expects that by Thursday, the backlog will be done. For Noguchi, we have no backlog. We have 0 samples awaiting testing. So, as the Minister said, we should be able to provide results within 24 hours back to the Ghana Health Service when samples are received from contact tracing and also from hospital surveillance.
The presidential advisor on health, Dr. Nsiansari, said Ghana has done relatively well with the management of the pandemic and that the low mortality rate is as a result of the early introduction of measures to fight COVID-19, including the closure of the country's borders.
And if you look at even the numbers that we have, those who are well and responding to treatment, out of the 2,719, 88% of those people are well and responding to treatment either in the facilities or in isolation or at home. Somebody will ask, why is it that we have so low recovery and discharge patients? That is something we are doing in process. If you look at it, if you look at the first few cases that we have, some of them are not in the country, but I'm sure they are all recovered and discharged at wherever they are. So we are gathering all these figures, and very soon we shall tell you how many people have been discharged or recovered out of, they don't have the virus and has been discharged. It doesn't mean that we are out of the doom. It means that we have to continue whatever measures we have put in place. What it means in Ghana is that we are lucky. We took a lot of measures early enough. So we should be very grateful to the Commander-in-Chief, His Excellency the President, for putting in these measures, which had a lot of social and economic problems, but he took it.
In another development, Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah is urging faith-based organizations and civil society groups to begin to call out persons who politicize the outbreak of COVID-19 in Ghana. His call comes on the back of fallouts of the reaction Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia gave to former President Mahama. Speaking at the COVID-19 briefing in Accra, he stated Ghana risks losing focus in the fight against the pandemic if the issues are painted with political colors.
We appreciate the recent calls for a de-escalation of the growing politicization. These calls are in line, if you recall, with calls that we started making right here from this podium about a month ago, that it is important for the country to remain focused on the common enemy. The president has been making it in his speeches. We have to focus on the common enemy, that's COVID-19, and not on one another. Initially, when we started making these calls for an apolitical discussion of the subject, and for us to create more room for the experts to do the analysis, we were mocked. You'll recall some of the political leaders were mocking us and making all sorts of comments. At that time, some of the very respected persons who are making these calls for a de-escalation of politics today, at that time they were very quiet. Because as it appears, their political leaders and their candidates were championing a political agenda at the time. So they were very quiet. Now when political actors from the government side are also now responding politically, all of a sudden they say everybody should begin to tone down on politicization. That is the truth of what has happened so far. The nation, in all honesty, stands a real risk of losing focus and degenerating into partisan political banter, while the real key issue of COVID-19 and managing it is relegated to the background. That's a real risk that we run, where we are going. And this risk, we started, as I mentioned, we started warning a little over a month ago. So it's important that we all not be silent when our candidate is politicizing the matter, only to speak when other people start responding politically. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Let's be honest in this country. If we don't want politics in this matter like we are preaching it, when people start politicizing it, the faith-based groups, the religious leaders, the civil society organizations, the media, call it out that this is politics, let's put it aside and focus on the enemy. If you don't, the other side also has politicians. They will start politicizing it, and we will be the collective losers. And so we'll go back to that prayer we prayed about a month ago, that let's focus on the common enemy, that's COVID-19, and let's put the politicization aside. If the senior statesmen sit around because their political candidate is politicizing a matter, and they choose not to condemn it, religious leaders, civil society groups, everybody sits by, then don't be surprised when political actors from the other side also start responding. However, we still have an opportunity to keep our collective focus and to cut out partisanship so that we can win together.
You're watching Joy News Prime, and joining us on phone now, or joining us on Zoom now to talk about what was shared at Tuesday's news conference is virologist with the KCCR, Dr. Michael Owusu, who's also a lecturer at the KNUST. Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Owusu, for making time to speak with us. Now, my first question to you after the news conference on Tuesday is Ghana really at the peak of the infection curve, as suggested by the Director of Public Health?
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to tell now whether we are at the peak of the infection curve, and I'm being cautious making this statement because I'm aware that there are a group of modelers, mathematical modelers, who are trying to model the curve, the epidemic curve of the virus using real-time data, which is being collected from the Ghana Health Service. So I think that I will want to wait for the model that will come out from this data, especially because a lot of the samples we have collected, the data which have been shared, seem to have been from backlogs, and these are not real-time data. So using that to extrapolate the peak curve is a bit difficult. So once the Ghana Academy of Art and Sciences are doing this, I think we need to wait for them to come out with the model, and they can describe the epidemic curve and to tell us exactly where we are. And also, this epidemic curve will differ from region to region. It is possible Accra may hit its peak, but then Kumasi will begin to climb the curve. And from Kumasi, Eastern region may follow. So that is why you could have regional epidemics. You could declare epidemic centers from region to region and district to district. So I think I want to wait for the modelers to come out with their model. Then we can understand exactly what the real-time data is telling us.
All right, I don't know what figures the Director of Public Health is looking at or based on to suggest that we are at the peak, even though he goes to concede that it depends. The rest of it depends on the way Ghanaians observe the measures that have been put in place. But if you have a situation where we added 550 new cases just yesterday, and the KCCR2 also, Noguchi says it's cleared its backlog. KCCR says it has just about 2,000 tests to go through. Could it be, or are we looking at a situation where the cases or the reports that we're going to get will not compare with the 550 or the hundreds that we have recorded in the past?
It is possible. I mean, if you look across the globe, each of the countries have an Excel sheet. The Excel sheet has every day the number of new cases that is recorded. So you can easily download the Excel sheet and then take on from 12th of March, when we first detected our first cases, go through to date and see how many new cases we record each and every day. The challenge has been that it's difficult to link the day on which the samples are reported to the day on which the samples were collected. So there seems to be a gap between these two dates, and therefore using the date on which the lab reports a sample to extrapolate is a bit difficult. You are likely to make some marginal errors. So I think that most of the data we have reported, from our end, because of the huge numbers of contact tracing samples, there seemed to be a bit of a delay before that. So we could be making predictions, we could be 3 weeks behind. So now that we are almost about to clear all the backlogs, the data that will be coming afterwards are likely to reflect the key data which will come in real time and which will inform us as to what to do.
Does that suggest a deficiency in the way we went about collecting our samples? Because we should have been able to, as you're indicating, indicate the days on which the samples were collected and do the test accordingly.
I don't think it's a deficiency. I think that it's a learning curve, and all of us are part of it. I'm also a part of the process, and we have been working very hard to ensure that all of us put this data right and connect this properly for public health use. Because we were overwhelmed by this. It started on 1, 2, 3 cases. Whilst putting in the structures, the cases began to troop in their numbers and thousands. And all of a sudden, we were all caught up testing. And it's not just about testing, entering data, correcting case investigation forms, aligning them properly, reporting in real time. So I think the huge surge in cases and coupled with the way the cases came in is what perhaps unaware all of us were caught in. But the good thing is that these are files which are there. The data is available. We are going back to realign them, which will mean that we haven't lost anything. We can still correct it and be able to make our projections, which is what I think we must focus on. I don't think it's a deficit. I think that it's a pandemic of this nature. We've never experienced it before. This is the first time as a young man I'm seeing such pandemic, which means that a lot of the things that we are learning in subsequent years, we can be able to adopt more pragmatic measures to prevent a possible delay in things, and then put down the things structure so that we don't experience what we are experiencing.
All right. Dr. Michael Owusu, my final question to you has to do with what you make of the strategy at this point. What should we be doing going forward?
Yes, so going forward, I think we need to understand what we have now. Look at Accra. Accra has over 2,000 cases. Kumasi has over 100 cases. Eastern region is following. So what is important is for us to begin to classify these regions into phases. And depending on which one you use, if you use the African CDC model or the proposal, Accra is likely to be in phase 4, which means there is a large pervasive local transmission of the virus. When you have a case like this, you need to prioritize your testing, which is very, very important. Over the time, we have done a lot of community contact tracing testing, looking out for active cases, and that is what has helped us to break transmission cycle of the virus. But where we have gotten now, where we have a lot of pervasive local transmission, it is good to begin to focus on the healthcare facilities where we channel all our resources into and to deliver real-time results to these people. The reason being that our mortality is a little below 1%, which is very good. How do we keep on with this? If we are able to go through the healthcare facilities and test everyone with disease, irrespective of whatever the person comes out with, if we are able to do this, then we can pick up those with severe disease in real time, manage them properly, and ensure that they don't develop into critical illness, and therefore they don't die. The next important thing is that if you have a region with local transmission, you want to focus on the healthcare workers. Because if the healthcare workers pick up 1 or 2 of the viruses, they can trigger what we call the nosocomial transmission of the virus in the healthcare setting. That is the #1 killer of a lot of people, in the midst of the developed world. So what you want to do is to ensure that all health workers, especially living in the Accra zones, are tested. These are syndromic testing, so that you can pick up those who are positive quickly isolate them and free the area of all these individuals so that you don't have a cycle where you could have transmission going on the healthcare setting, not by people who are coming in, by the workers who are working. So doctors, cleaners, everybody, lab scientists, pharmacists, everyone who works in the healthcare setting, including records, should be able to do this so that you'll be able to at least isolate them and then not have what you call a nosocomial transmission occurring. So you can keep your mortality still below 1%. That is very essential for us to do, especially in a place like Accra.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Owusu. Dr. Michael Owusu is a virologist with the KCCR. He's also a lecturer at KNUST. Over to you, Aisha.
And since March, there have been calls from the president and, most importantly, health experts on the need for everyone to wear a face mask. On April 23, the Greater Accra Regional Security Council directed the mandatory wearing of face masks in the Greater Accra region. But for those of you living in Accra, I'm sure you've seen the level of compliance. Well, today, the obviously frustrated Health Minister, Kwaku Agyeman-Manu, moved from giving directives to now pleading with the public to wear their mask. Listen.
Over the weekend, I drove around town, some places, and people are not wearing the masks. Meanwhile, some of us are selling the masks by the roadside. And it is not very, very, very expensive. But I know, even if it's 1 cedi, some of us will not have money to buy. So those of us who have a little extra, more than 1 cedi, when you buy one with your 2 cedi, buy one for your next neighbor. That has been the Ghanaian way of life. We support each other. And I'm pleading with companies, organizations, churches, those who have. There are those of us who don't have. We need some to wear so that the president will know we are listening to his advice. So the idea of I don't have money to buy should not be an excuse from anybody. We see people in the middle of the street begging for money. So that money you are begging for, use some to buy the mask. You see, God wants us not to do certain things. When you have this mask, you can't drink. Can you? So God wants to tell us that don't go and sit somewhere in the middle of the street and drink beer and drink alcohol. So if you have the mask, then God will be comfortable with you because you're not going to drink. If any one of us who want to contract the disease and wants to die voluntarily, the rest of us don't want to die. So don't bring your death to join us. So don't think that you're protecting only yourself. By adhering to these protocols, you are helping all of us.
Well, this raises issues of enforcement and compliance. On 26th of April, the Health Ministry released a statement directing everyone to wear a mask. In that statement, they quoted portions of the Public Health Act that provides that the Minister of Health may order an individual to take a preventive measure in respect of public health matters. So why are we unable to enforce this? In talking about face mask and its enforcement, you also recall that the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah gave out a directive asking people to wear them or face sanctions. Listen to him a few weeks ago.
Close of day tomorrow, the following day, we are going to be very strict because everybody should be able to acquire the face mask today and tomorrow.
When you say being strict, what do you mean by being strict specifically?
If we see you maybe without face mask and you are in public, we can return you to go back home until you get the face mask on.
So that would be the Ashanti Region's measure to contain the spread.
Yes, that's what we are going to do, and especially in the market areas and areas where you have large crowds.
Let's speak with my colleague Ohime Nteria, who's been following this issue of face mask for us in the Ashanti region. Ohime, are people complying with the guidelines in the Ashanti region?
Yes, Aisha, I will say the directive has been adhered to by residents of Kumasi from day one when Dr. Michael Owusu, virologist at KCCR, first made a suggestion to the health ministry and government in general to implement wearing of nose masks. And in that interview that we had with him on Joy News, he specifically stated that wearing of nose masks shouldn't be an option, but it should be mandatory for all Ghanaians as far as measures to curtail the spread of COVID-19 is concerned. And a day after the advice, the Ashanti Regional Minister, Simon Osei-Mensah, who spoke to my colleague Nana Yaojima, stated that the Regional Health Directorate and then the RESEC has also adopted the measure and insisted that henceforth from 21st April, everybody, especially those who visit public places, should be in nose mask. And since then, almost everybody that you see on the streets of Kumasi or in the Ashanti region is in nose mask. I must say compliance has not been 100%, but comparing what I have seen in Ashanti region to parts of Eastern region that I visited just this morning, the indication is that the compliance level in Ashanti region is very high. It's very, very high. Everybody that you meet on the streets of Kumasi has a nose mask on him or her.
Hearing from the minister, you sense that he was very worried about the people in the market. How is the compliance in the market?
For the public places, especially in the markets, some visuals that we just shown from the Ejuso market is one of the most patronized markets in Ashanti region. The traders, they themselves have formed a task force. So the no mask, no entry directive is working perfectly in the Ejuso market. If you dare enter the market without a nose mask, the task force will just force you to go back and come back later in a nose mask before you are allowed to trade, either to buy or to trade your wares in the market. In the Asokore-Mampong municipality, for instance, the Asokore-Mampong market where we visited, the story is not different. The traders, everybody you see in the market is actually in nose mask. In that particular market, the issue was that some of the patrons who visit the market normally comes to the market without their nose mask. And when you question them, they have the nose mask on them, but at some instances, they were not wearing the nose mask. But I must say, henceforth, with the support of the municipal and district task force, there's no police or military involvement. It's been civilians who are enforcing these directives. People have adhered to the no mask, no entry in public places, and even on the streets, you see people in their nose masks.
So the compliance has generally been good. Grateful for the update. Ohim Interior is with our health desk. Still to come in this bulletin, government claims vindication after the Supreme Court upheld government's military cooperation agreement with the United States.
Or at least we those who do that is not vindicated by this, by the results or by the judgment that was given today. So like I said to them, anybody who thinks that it's not a good agreement has the option to say that. We didn't want to take 10 years, 5 years and tie anybody's hands.
There is more when we return from the break. Time now for business. Daryl Kwa is here with the very latest. Hi, Daryl.
Hi, Aisha.
We're all expectant of the industrialization forum.
Yes,
I hope
it came off.
well.
It was an exciting event, and well, bottom line is that industry wants more from government aside from the tax cuts and the stimulus package. From now till after the COVID-19 pandemic, they need more. And so the chief executive of the Association of Ghana Industries has called for a clear strategy from government to propel industry as it takes a hit from the coronavirus pandemic. Said Chuma Kwabwa says an industrialization plan is also critical for self-sufficiency. He was speaking at the Joy Business Industrialization Forum held today.
So you need to have a clear strategy. And it is even becoming more critical under the Continental Free Trade Agreement, where Africa is opening its doors for us, and we're also opening doors for Africa. So it means that you need to have a clear strategy. And the strategy involves so many things. First of all, you need to have the macroeconomic variables right, stability in the macroeconomic variables, so that industries can plan and predict. Industries do what they are best, they are good at doing. I believe Kasapreko here employs his people. They know how to manage to get their raw materials. They know how to get their market. They will do everything within their control. But the external factors, they don't have control over it. So let the external factors be fixed by government so that the environment becomes predictable. The next thing is that we need to have our cost of production in reasonable levels, because we are competing with other countries. If cost of production is high, it doesn't make you competitive. No matter how hard you work as an industry or as a company, if your cost of production is high, for example, if electricity is high, if you are borrowing at very high cost, and you don't have access to the medium to long-term capital to do your expansion, these factors within the business environment has to be right.
CEO of Blue Skies West Africa, Ruth Ejay, who participated in the forum, disclosed how her company, which produces fresh food products mainly for export, is being impacted by the pandemic.
One night with this COVID, and production, of course, doubled. So you have all the airlines not flying, and you have to actually charter flights and all that. And it comes with a cost. You don't want to say that I'm going to lay 50% of the staff off because I'm struggling with the day. You have to still move with the labor and make sure that people like us, our tax experts said, you just don't have to say that I'm still maintaining the tax that I have because I need the money. But then you have to look at whether the tax will exist if the businesses are not existing. So you need to make sure that you encourage their businesses to ensure that they are there to be able to get the tax you need. We have gone through, the bottom line of almost break even to heavy losses. But this is a business that is highly perishable, that we fly out. And we can't say we are stopping overnight just because we have the pandemic. We have to work through it. But this is where we need the government support. We need the government to be able to tell us. Of course, the government has done a little bit of a cut on the electricity, which we are very grateful. But there is more that the government can do.
So you had the CEO of Blue Skies West Africa asking government to do more. No doubt government is under a lot of pressure, but what more can it do aside from cutting taxes? Tax consultant William Demitia shared some perspective at the forum.
0.8% of its total tax revenue was going to pay salaries and wages. 48.2% of the tax revenue was going to pay interest on debt. So essentially, 99% of government revenue, tax revenue, was going to service only 2 line items.
That's right.
Today, government is saying, I'm going to lose 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. So government from day one wasn't even able to meet its target. Now it's even going to be worse. Now, my understanding is that whenever there's a pandemic, there's a shift in economic activity. That is, the effective or productive sectors of the economy tend to shift. So for example, if you have a power crisis, you realize that people who import power generating sets, people who repair them, people who work along that particular industry tend to increase their profits and sales. And so even though government may be losing revenue in other sectors, there are certain sectors that may be doing well. The question we should ask ourselves is that in the midst of this pandemic, which sectors of the economy are experiencing growth? Would it be the consumables? If it's the consumables such as those in the trading industry, the question is, do we have a system in place to get our fair share of taxes from them?
Meanwhile, audit firm KPMG is also calling for tax incentives to be enhanced so industries have full benefit of the tax environment. Here's Senior Tax Manager Michael Boateng.
And having a very strong and effective tax environment and tax administration is so key. And I think I'm happy that this issue is always in the news. There are a lot of discussions with the government. The government listens to taxpayers. They make changes. And I'm happy that we're having this discussion so that the key stakeholders will appreciate some of these things and keep doing the good things that they're doing to make sure that we create the enabling environment for Ghana. In all things and in being fairness, our environment has been very conducive. But if you look at where we want to go in terms of the Ghana leapfrogging to become one of the best, one of the big industrial countries in Africa, you see that there's more that we can do to get there. I mean, if you just want to be where we are, we can just stay. But I believe that there is so much we can do. And one of the things which I've seen that recently when the Minister of Finance went to Parliament on March 30th to announce some of the government measures, it will interest you to know that one of the biggest things that they made was the ease of doing business or complying with taxes.
And that's your business update for now. Sports is coming up next with Gary R. Smith.
Thank you for staying with us on Joy News Prime. I'm Gary R. Smith, and this is The Sport. Today, the 5th of May, is the deadline date for CAF, as it gave all member associations to respond to whether they would annul or continue their domestic seasons. But we now understand that the Ghana Football Association will ask CAF to give them another fortnight to complete all consultations before a decision is communicated. Ahead of that decision, former Black Stars defender Joe Ado wants the football governing body to take the best possible stance with all stakeholders in mind.
It's a double-edged sword because, you know, you cancel the league, those who have invested so much, especially the club owners. Look, when I was playing, I didn't really care about the club owners. But then when I came to be an administrator to work for Hearts of Hope and Brecum Chelsea, I saw what the club owners go through. And for all that money spent, you know, you can't just say, let's cancel the league just because. It's very difficult. Also, you can't just say, let's play the league. You know, there's a pandemic. So something has to be done. But it's a double-edged sword. And I think that's why the FA president is there, the football administrator is there. That's their job to decide. For me, personally, I think health is more important than entertainment. But that's my take. It might be different on somebody else. I think the pandemic has opened our eyes to so many things. And if lives could be saved by us not playing, then so be it.
Okay.
But it's a double-edged sword. It's very difficult.
Cutting the salaries of Ghana Premier League players is similarly a double-edged sword, and a Joy Sports survey shows that many administrators do not support the idea. You may recall that across the world, many countries and teams are asking their players to take salary cut as COVID-19 bites in many, many ways. What is the situation here as we have seen? So, we went on speaking to a couple of administrators. Mr. Randy Abe of the Ghana Football Association Executive Council says maybe we can have pay cuts, but we should have more deliberation because clubs are as affected financially as their players. Nana Jambibi Koka of Asante Kotoko says no cuts because the wide differences in wages makes it difficult to ask players to sacrifice their meager salaries. So these are just two. Kingsley Osei-Bonsu of Bichem United also says no salary cuts because, and I'm quoting him, my lowest earning player takes 300 cedis a month. How can I cut this further? Food for thought. Kwame Banyako, ex-Kotoko official, also says no salary cuts because Ghana's player earnings are averagely lower than their African counterparts, and hence the decision won't be realistic. What else have we got? Fatah Dauda, former Black Star, now goalkeeper and captain of Legon Cities, also says 9 to salary cuts because we'd wish to take less than we do, but how much do you even pay players and how much do they take? But a Parliamentary Sports Select Committee official, Alex Kofi-Jekum, says players should compromise for a pay cut to help keep their clubs alive. Most of, in fact, all the Ghana Premier League clubs we spoke to, all of them said they were not in favor, but the Parliamentary Select Committee official says they should. We'll see how that one goes. I'm Gary R. Smith. Thank you for your time. We'll be back shortly. Oh, I have time for one more story. Sorry about that. Now, new Ashanti Gold sporting director Roy Arthur is in the news. We told you about the fact that he and Emmanuel Frimpong will be handling the club. Now, Arthur says he's keen on building on the already existing structures at the club to make them more competitive in Ghana and beyond. Now, Roy is a former CEO of BA United, and he is part of a new management put together by the majority shareholder, that's Dr. Kweku Frimpong, aka Champion, to run the club following the exit of Frederick Achampong. Now, Roy Arthur has been speaking to Joy Sports.
I think it's one of the best roles in football. Looking at my background and the way I've always led attack way back from BA United, Brecum Arsenals. I mean, I scout for good players. I manage good players very well, and Dr. Frimpong, knowing very well what I can do, he decided to appoint me as the sporting director. Oh, the structures, the players were very good. Ashgold has a good team, and I mean, I went closer to the team and I realized that it's one of the best clubs to work with, and I was motivated with. I mean, our last league that we played, I mean, they played very well, and I think, I mean, it was a good opportunity to continue from where they were. It is sign good quality players for Ashgold, make more transfers for Ashgold, and also bring the team to an appreciable level, looking at their background and all that. I think Ashgold should be placed well. So I think that I am ready to change the face of Ashgold.
And now, that is our final story. I'll be back on the next leg. For those of you on Joy Prime, see you tomorrow. On Joy News, stay with us. See you soon.
Time now for showbiz, and Becky is here with her comedy.
Hello to you.
And
I understand that people think that you look like Mercy Johnson.
Well, I've had a few people say that to me.
Have you tried acting anywhere in Ghana?
No, I haven't tried that.
Okay, Mercy, congratulations to Mercy, because she just had her 4th baby, and we're very much excited for her. Are you having another baby, Aisha?
Of course, of course, of course. Maybe I'll take inspiration from Mercy Johnson,
because she looks
who's
like
supposed to be my twin.
So that's just, by the way, congratulations to Mercy Johnson. But
and that's her 4th child. Oh my goodness,
she's looking so cute.
And she's kept herself well.
Yeah.
I mean, she's being in shape.
I wish I had a 4th baby and still looking fly the way I'm looking in my dreams, right?
Stay there.
Actually, let's talk about Bisa Kede. Bisa Kede is apologizing to the media for comments that he said he didn't tweet. So he tweeted that the media is fake. So on Daybreak Hits, he says that he wasn't the one who tweeted that, and that his PA tweeted it, but then he's apologizing to Ghanaians and the media for that particular tweet.
Tell something like that doesn't mean that I don't know anything about it. I do, but just the context now, or the year, you know, right? So I know it's going to offend a lot of people, which the person use a medium way to apologize to a lot of people, but then I told him to tweet. It doesn't change the fact that.
So what did you tell him to tweet?
So somebody asked a question, and I told him to tweet that yes, some people in the media is fake, which you and I both know that is true. You understand? Some people are fake. But the part where he said that Obiako just that wasn't it. What did I say? What I said is, which I even said on your show the last time you saw me here, said, Enkofobi started agenda, sitting on radio, and almost started some say my career was drowning. That was from 2016, after Mansa and Brother, after VGMAs. People started doing that, right? But then after that, you know, Bibi ame release Bibi na me beto abonten kwa na obi be hu me ochina obeka say okay there yet on catch it. Maybe says, oh, what's a hammer? Or say I'm at a hammer head there, but still your tongue can't.
Yeah, but I think I still also feel that we haven't heard from him. I mean, if you listen to
that's what he's complaining about, Aisha. That's what he's complaining about. He said he's been here.
We love him. We love his music, and we want more of that. Is it too much to ask?
No, it's not too much to ask. I'll tell him that. But Aisha, today let's throw the spotlight on Sarkodie. You know, he won big at the 2020 Three Music Awards, and today we decide that we want to take you back to where it all started from.
When then underground rapper Michael Owusu-Addo, better known as Sarkodie, made an appearance on Adom FM's popular rap competition, Kasahari Level, I'm sure he dreamed.
We'll bring you that particular story, but let's talk about Daughters of Glorious Jesus. You know, a lot of people haven't been talking about COVID lately. Yeah. But do you know that it has affected them greatly?
I'm sure, but I don't know which particular way, I mean, they're talking about now.
Aisha, let's listen to them.
Anytime that we are going out, that's the work that we do. We don't do anything, just the music, you know, ministering to touch people's hearts. So we always go out to minister with people, gathering, church services, events, weddings, sometimes funerals and all that. And now we are not going anywhere. So somehow it is affecting us. Somehow it is affecting us.
Well, Daughters of Glorious Jesus. So it has actually affected them, and it's still affecting. Yeah, it's affecting everybody, and it has affected me as well. Could have been somewhere, you know, chilling and doing all the things that I'm doing.
Yes, I know, right?
But I'm still here,
and it's good to have you here. At least I'm enjoying you.
Oh, thank you so much. But Aisha, let's talk about Stonebwoy. He's in the news. Everybody's talking about him. Why is he trending? He's trending because he says that he doesn't think that some Ghanaians understand the essence or the magnitude of awards outside, like the Grammy Awards and all of those things. And people have been, you know, bashing him on social media.
Both got a Grammy nomination in Nigeria. It is a big deal. If you get a Grammy nomination here in Nigeria, it is a big deal. You got a Grammy nomination with Morgan Heritage, right?
2017, bro.
17. Do you think the respect you get from your country, do you think you feel you get the right or deserve respect in your country? Honestly.
Yo, but this is a very honest question. I'm going to make the headlines for this answer, but yeah, it's the truth. This is one part of it that is left to Ghanaians, you know what I mean, that we have to actually realize what it is. A majority of us don't even know what it is, as much as Nigerians do.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what I think, you know, and even if they do know, they don't see it, I don't think they value and realize the magnitude, you know, or the weight that it carries to be what it is. But for the few that know, they know the levels of...
I'm sure everybody knows the magnitude of Grammy Awards. I'm sure everybody knows how BET Awards feels like.
Of course.
I don't know, but yeah.
Well, I'm just hoping that he'll win more of that.
Oh, he will.
Definitely, it puts you on a certain
and we will support.
Degree. Thank you so much for bringing us Showbiz. Thank you.
The Supreme Court has, in a unanimous decision, upheld as legal Ghana's military cooperation agreement with the United States of America. Roger Jemfi, who is Ashanti Regional Youth Organizer for the NDC, in 2018 sued the government of Ghana over the agreement. He, among other things, prayed the court to set it aside on grounds that it was not in the national interest and contravened several articles of the 1992 Constitution. He was, among others, demanding a declaration that the word used within the provisions of Article 75 of the 1992 Constitution is a term of art which has a true meaning of incorporating international law and treaties into the domestic legal system of the Republic of Ghana and not prior approval or approval. The 7-member Supreme Court panel, presided over by Chief Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah, described the case as unmeritorious. The Chief Justice indicated that the reason for the court's decision will be in the full judgment to be made available shortly. My colleague Araba Kumsing, in the following report, chronicles events leading to the implementation of the agreement and how it ended up in court.
In March 2018, Defense Minister Dominic Nituo laid before Parliament a document seeking to ratify an agreement to allow for joint military training exercises between the Ghana government and the US. Even before that, Joy News had intercepted a copy of the deal, which revealed, among others, that the US troops will pay no taxes for equipment brought into the country and use Ghana's radio spectrum to set up their own communication system free of charge. The deal came under heavy criticism by the minority and some civil society groups, which alleged it included a request by the Americans for the establishment of a military base in Ghana. But Dominic Nitiwul strongly denied the claim.
I have a written letter from the American government assuring us that the Americans will not have a base and don't intend to have a base in Ghana.
Minority leader Haruna Iddrisu argued the document did not have any signatures and could not be executed.
Of the United States, represented by who? And then the government of Ghana, represented by who? And a document must come signed.
So you're telling me that the document that came before the House did not have any signature?
He subsequently led his side to walk out of the proceedings, resulting in a one-sided approval of the document. Enraged by government's actions, opposition parties and civil society groups embarked on a massive demonstration in Accra, accusing the Akufo-Addo administration of attempting to sell the country's sovereignty for a mere $20 million.
We don't want a permanent military base in our country. We don't want a permanent military presence. We don't want an agreement signed in perpetuity, as Article 19 of the agreement clearly stipulates.
But President Akufo-Addo, in a national televised address, expressed outrage at the claims, insisting the deal was in the interest of the country.
We were satisfied that the conditions which necessitated the agreement, namely the creeping threat to the peace of the region, had not disappeared. If anything, the threat had increased, and therefore the need had arisen for continuing with our cooperation.
Dissatisfied with government's assurances, the Ashanti Regional Youth Organizer of the NDC, Broja Jemfi, took up the case at the Supreme Court, insisting the agreement was not in the interest of the state.
Addressing the media after the court ruling, a member of the legal team for the plaintiff, Elik Plim Agbomava, says he disagrees with the ruling, but will wait to read the reasoning of the court.
Make of the decision of the court.
We can't make anything out of it because the Supreme Court did not give the reasons why it dismissed the case against the government.
But does this end the matter for you? I mean, once the court essentially is saying that there's nothing wrong with the agreement?
Well, they dismissed the case, and we don't know why they did that because as it is now, we've not been afforded, the opportunity to look at the reasons. When we get the reasons, we will know why the Supreme Court is saying that an agreement that was not even signed by the government of Ghana is a legal binding instrument on the government or the state. I think in the coming days, we will be able to expatiate or explain or even question what the Supreme Court's decision has been. But for now, I can't engage in any technical analysis of the decision.
Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwul, meanwhile, says government feels vindicated by its decision to enter into the military cooperation agreement with the United States of America. Speaking with Gifty Anwapia on the Pulse on Tuesday, Mr. Nitiwul hinted government has no intention of abrogating the agreement when it expires, adding that it has brought the country many benefits.
Offered a chance to be given military goods. We have been offered a chance to be given military equipment. We have been offered a chance to be given several things because of this very agreement. Our scholarships to study in military field within the American, what we call scholarship, military scholarship, especially for officers, has gone up threefold. Very few people know that. So the benefit to the average Ghanaian is that our military is much sharper. Our military is being trained more or less. Of course, we are also training the American military because it was a symbiotic relationship. It's not just one way. If you go to Ashanti, unless because of Corona, the Americans used to come to Ashanti, our general welfare school, and we used to also train them as well. But it's not an ordinary relationship that you are looking at. It is military to military relationship. And so the benefit may not be very obvious to you and myself, except when you ask questions. So giving them the old Terminal 1 and then other military things like that, and that's what they do. And that's an Air Force hangar that has always been reserved for the use of foreign troops. That is the Air Force hangar you are talking about. And that is what they said, look, if you have given us this hangar in 2015 to be using for our work, then please let us have unrestricted access to it. So for us, The fact that we are fine with an ally who is now working very closely with us makes Ghana much, much safer than it used to be.
The agreement has no expiry date but ought to be renewed each year, and the opposition NDC has indicated it will abrogate it if it wins power. Mr. Nituo says that will be entirely their prerogative.
To look at the contract very well, we did not put a contract, an expiry date. Look at it very well.
Okay.
The contract is very clear. If government of Ghana decides that they are not more interested in this contract, we give them 1 year notice, and that's it. It's abrogated. So at any time that any government comes, I hear that the NDC said they were going to take me to court in any future that they ever win the election. They will jail me and jail Akufo-Addo and blah blah because of this agreement. I just hope that one day when they come and they think it's not good, they can cancel it. I don't have a problem. We don't have a problem with that. But as NPP government, we think it's a good agreement, it's helping us, and we move on. And I think that the people of Ghana have been vindicated, or at least we those who think that they should have been vindicated by this, by the results or by the judgment that was given today. But like I said to them, anybody who thinks that it's not a good agreement has the option to stay out. We didn't want to skip 10 years, 5 years and tie anybody's hands. We just give 1 year notice. So essentially, it is a rolling agreement. It's a 1 year agreement that is rolling. That's the meaning. Okay. It means it's a 1 year agreement that is rolling. So every year you just write the next, at the end of that year.
If you are willing to
January,
go forward.
December is gone.
Okay.
In other news, environmental health workers whose duty it is to conduct the burial of persons who die of coronavirus say it is unfair that they are not entitled to the incentives being given frontline health workers involved in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. As members of the Ghana Environmental Health Officers Association, they are also engaged in surveillance, disinfection, as well as isolation of COVID-19 patients. Leaders of the Ashanti Region branch say government must immediately rectify what they describe as an anomaly, as their members stand an even greater risk of being infected in their line of duty. Love FM's Erastus Sasaridonko has more.
Meet 45-year-old father of 5, Adongo, an environmental health person. His job entails disinfecting suspected coronavirus-infested environments, preparing and burying of deceased persons who had been infected with COVID-19. Adongo has been actively involved in such activities since the first confirmed case and subsequently death of patients in the Ashanti region. He tells me the risk to his life is high, as he sometimes has to reuse disposable protective equipment or virtually beg for a new one to discharge his duty. Despite his exposure to the disease, he is not counted as a frontline staff and currently doesn't benefit from government's stimulus package.
This year, me free na tadia mo de mama me de ma show, but me year ma woro ho na machine na de ahia no me kwa if me woro dwa state na ma ko woro mo ho na ma jwal na me so ku tade na shi this year ma me no me yer na me makora ya mben wife to no ko na so me teme ko fa body bi o baby sa body ni tade me ko fa ri ko cemetery ko sie no sa body ni tade na me sa ri ko fa afoforo Tadia Bacope, Mudufunu Minu. At least that time on me, Bacasabi and Boss Bacasabi, I mean to say, Jumanboconi, a man, and tell yes, me, Manaba Trade. A man who never followed the emboss a panel. You see, I bet you have a so colonial virus to say about so chat. Sukaka Crabby, Adia saw Yasane. It is going to end, I could do nest, daughters, yeah.
Elvis also supervises burial of confirmed or suspected COVID-19 victims in Kumasi.
I could remember when we went to the Obuasi for the 4th burial. We went there and the PPEs were inadequate because the body was in a cold room. They do not have a mortuary where we have to dress up with all our PPEs coverall to go there and pick the dead body, which is in the body bag, into the casket. And right after that, all PPEs must be discarded. Then when we get to the cemetery, we have to use another PPEs, nose mask, gloves. All these things are utilities that need not be used more often. Immediately go nearer the body, after picking or doing one or two things, you have to change them. And this has been a very big challenge to us. Because
Adongo and Elvis represent many environmental health staff on local government payroll working on COVID-19 teams across the region. They say, unlike their colleague health staff, they have been excluded from government packages despite being exposed to the similar risk. The Ashanti Regional Association of Environmental Health Officers is not happy. Stella Gabriel is the regional president.
Your members of your association feel?
Well, in fact, we feel very disappointed and dejected. We have always been on the field together with other health workers. We are part of the rapid response team, the district management team. We also are in charge of disinfection. That is from the house of the infected person to even the hospital facility. And when the person dies, we take care of the burial. What can be more contagious than these activities that we carry out? Just like any other health worker, we have contact with the patient whilst alive, and when the patient passes away, we are being asked to take care of the dead body. And when it comes to enjoying a motivation or motivational package, they are trying to sideline us, which I think is very disheartening.
Head of Local Government Service, Dr. Nana Atto Arthur, says concerns of the environmental health workers have come to his attention, and he has forwarded same to government for redress.
In the current fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, environmental health officers take a frontline role, rubbing shoulders with their health practitioners on the field. When it comes to prevention, they are in people's homes. They are fumigating areas, disinfecting areas where suspected cases are. They bury the dead from COVID-19, but they are not counted as frontline workers who should benefit from Ghana's stimulus package. They are demanding their fair share of the national cake. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus.
In Accra, my name is Aisha Ibrahim. Immigration officers at the Togo border have also arrested 25 persons, including an agent who was aiding the 24 to cross illegally into Togo to trade. This current arrest brings the total about 180 persons who made attempts at the legal routes at the Ghana-Togo border. The 24 were tested for COVID-19, after which they were released. The agent is, however, still being held. Now, joining me over the telephone is the sector commander for Aflao border, Chief Superintendent Fred Dodo. Good evening to you. I'm grateful for your time. Superintendent, how often do you get people trying to break the law by illegally crossing to trade?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. When the lockdown was lifted, most of the traders from Accra, Kumasi, and others started coming to Aflao to carry on with their normal business activities. We encountered them when they tried to use the other book and to go and buy their wares. They are almost every day. These people try to use the other book to enter Togo.
And in most cases, you realize that it is actually Ghanaians who aid the people to break the rules and enter here illegally. Would you say the sanction regime is not punitive enough, and that's why we're still having a recurrence of this?
Yes, I would say so. Because when the closure of the border came into force, the municipal chief executive had a meeting with almost all the opinion leaders, and then this Okada Brothers Association, just for them not to engage with the IDICA Act because of the seriousness of this pandemic. But it is an activity that is for a long time. So, I mean, they don't see the seriousness of this disease that has come to involve the whole world, including Ghana. But like you mentioned, now, unfortunately, now courts are not sitting in Aflao and the environs. So those people that were even arrested and sent to the police, they were unable to prosecute them, just for them to be granted bail. That with the view that maybe when the opportunity comes, these people will be put before the court. So most of the means that they were using to conduct this illegal act, especially the Okada, most of these motorbikes have been seized and the people have been granted bail, which we have these motorbikes in our custody now.
Well, different problems requires different strategies. How will this change your modus operandi in the jurisdiction?
So now what we have done is to deploy more of the personnel into the bush, that was the unapproved route. So if you come to the main border, you notice that we have a skeleton staff at the main border because there's no activity there. It's only the cargo trucks who are using the main border. So majority, about 90% or 95% of the staff has been deployed to the unapproved to be able to contain the activities of these persons who are trying to illegally cross into Togo and then back to Ghana.
I'm grateful for your time. Chief Superintendent Fred Dodo, a sector commander at the Aflao border. In the northern region, officers of the immigration there in the northeast region, in collaboration with military personnel, have arrested 15 Togolese and 8 Burkinabés as part of ongoing operations along the borders to prevent illegal entry as the country's frontiers remain shut. According to the Regional Immigration Command, the foreign nationals who entered through unapproved routes were arrested in a Yutong vehicle claiming to have set off from Garu. Sources told Joy News the arrest followed intelligence received by border control guards at the Misiga inland post that some foreigners were sneaking through other unapproved routes. There's more in the following report.
The Northeast Region Commander, acting on intelligence, dispatched personnel at the Bunkpurugu Command to quickly erect a checkpoint, which led to the arrest of the foreigners. After critical interrogation of the passengers on board, the 23 foreigners were identified. The Northeast Regional Commander says the foreigners, when questioned, said they were farm laborers traveling to Kumasi and its environs to look for work. Chief Superintendent William Ando said they have been escorted back to the Togo and Burkina Faso with a caution not to illegally come into the country again.
They were all repatriated back to Togo through the Nakun border post.
Right, so these were all Burkinabés?
They were Burkinabés and then Togolese.
This is the second major operation to be carried out by the immigration officials in the Bunkpurugu Nakwanduri district in the Northeast region since the closure of the country's borders. The officers 2 months ago intercepted and repatriated over 80 foreign nationals who had attempted using the various unapproved routes to come into the country.
The northern region has recorded 12 recoveries out of the 16 COVID-19 cases. The recoveries include 7 of the Guineans who entered the region illegally. Speaking to the media at a press briefing, the Regional Health Director, Dr. John D. Eliza, said the Guineans will be discharged latest Wednesday morning.
For some time now, we've been aware that we have 13 cases showing on the national dashboard as the cases that are in the northern region, out of which 8 of them were Guineans, and then you remember that one absconded at the early stages. The good news is that today we can tell you that all the 7 have recovered, and so as a medical team, we are discharging them. The additional information is that the other 3 people that we had in the treatment center that were cases from Tamale itself have also recovered. So it means that out of the 13 cases that we're reporting, one of which is Al-Tambi, the remaining 12 all have recovered. So that's the situation as far as the Northern Region recovery status is.
He said the regional minister has commanded they be taken to a holding center in Accra, where they will later be repatriated to their home country when the borders are opened.
Remember that there was this Gulabalu about their entering the country, legal or illegal station. So once we have discharged them from the medical aspects, as far as doctors are concerned, we have no responsibility to them, and their whereabouts shouldn't be our business. But I can just inform you that with the support of the regional minister, we talked to the headquarters, that's Accra Immigration, and they have ordered that they be moved to the headquarters. I think they have a detention camp or something, a holding place there, where they will send them until maybe the borders are open and they will take the necessary action. That's what I can talk about their whereabouts.
He adds 3 cases that were recorded at the Tamale Treatment Center are part of those who recovered, dispelling rumors that a patient at Willinsey has escaped. In other news, a bulldozer operator of about 30 years has died in an illegal mining pit after the mud swallowed him with the heavy equipment in the Ashanti region. Joseph Yeboah was reclaiming degraded land when the machine tipped over into the soggy part of the pit on Monday. It took security personnel and community members over 12 hours to retrieve remains of the deceased. Nanaya Ojima visited the scene of the tragedy at Amansea West District, from where he filed this report.
5 excavators and a bulldozer were deployed to the site in an unsuccessful effort to rescue the now deceased Yeboah. The bulldozer he was operating tipped over and ended up in a swampy area. It continued to baffle many who have experience in the use of such a heavy-duty equipment, how it slipped into the muddy area. It took rescue team hours from 11 a.m. through till somewhere around 4 a.m. the next day to be able to retrieve the body of the deceased. The victim is said to have been part of a team contracted by One Apia, a small-scale miner, to reclaim the site where mining had taken place 5 years ago. Assembly member for the area, Patrick Abemi, says the incident occurred just weeks after work had begun, following persistent complaints by traditional authorities about the destruction.
We wanted to prevent someone falling into the pit, hence decision to reclaim the land. To prevent any occurrence in the future, we will go ahead with the reclamation. We are still in a fix how this happened, but we can't do much.
The site looks fresh, with virtually no weeds covering the devastated land, as is the case at many such abandoned environments. Pumping machines and other washing equipment look fresh, giving indication of very recent activity, despite suggestions the site had been abandoned for years. At the time of our visit, as early as 6 a.m., a few young people in what looks like working gear for illegal miners had come to the site. The assembly member, however, explains the rescue team had to fill up the muddy ground with sand as part of the rescue mission.
Site hours now. The operators work on shift, that's why you see the sheds erected in there. They enjoy their break under the shed. The site is no longer in use. The site in the
Mr. Agbami's story is corroborated by other residents, but it is established that illegal mining activities are still going on in some parts of the community. For Joy News, Nana Ojima reporting.
We're still live on Joy News Prime, and we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll bring you more in business.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. We have some more business news for you. The Supreme Court has, in a unanimous decision, dismissed a case filed by the Dynamic Youth Movement of Ghana challenging the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice's findings relating to government's issuance of a bond. My colleague Joseph Akable was in court today and had this briefing for me.
2018. It's a $2.25 billion bond. Some was for a period of 5, others were for 7, and some for 10 years. These were bonds that government issued to raise some funds into the economy shortly after they had taken over government, the reins of government. And the point that the NDC minority then had made was that the finance minister had simply cooked the bond for his family and friends. And it all stemmed from Franklin Templeton, which is an investment entity that took some of these bonds. And the point was made that one of its director, Trevor Trevgan, is a director of Enterprise, which is a company that they said the finance minister had interest in. And it was on that basis that the NDC minority made those allegations against the finance minister. A member of the NDC took the matter up to the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, asking that it investigates the issue of conflict of interest against the finance minister. Shraj cleared the finance minister of any wrongdoing, as Shraj was of the view that the bond was issued in a manner that did not favor family and friends, as was being alleged by Mr. Broja Jemfi. The Dynamic Youth Movement of Ghana then came in and took the matter to the Supreme Court, saying that as far as they are concerned, Shraj exceeded its mandate when it cleared the finance minister of any wrongdoing in terms of the issuance of the bond. And so they wanted a declaration that indeed the finance minister breached the rules of conflict of interest required of public officers, and so that should be the declaration of the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court, in a unanimous decision today, presided over by Chief Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah, disagreed with them, holding that the decision of Shraj is the right decision, and proceeded to state that the case that was filed was without merit. And so they make the point that the full details of that particular decision will be made available in a written judgment.
All right, and so do we have any reactions from both sides to this ruling by the Supreme Court?
The reaction we have has to do with the Dynamic Youth Movement of Ghana. They are concerned about what's happened. They are of the view that as far as they are concerned, they disagree with this particular decision because they are of the opinion that the finance minister acted wrongly when he proceeded to issue the bond in such a manner, and so they would have expected a decision from the Supreme Court in their favor. But once that did not happen, they say for now they are looking forward to getting the judgment of the court, which the Supreme Court has indicated will contain the reasons for its conclusions. And so once they receive that and study it, they'll decide the next line of action.
Yeah, because I was going to ask how these things work for those who are watching, whether it brings a finality to the matter or the other party, that is the DIMOG, can appeal this decision by the Supreme Court.
At the Supreme Court, there's an opportunity for a review. And so this is a 7-member panel. Once you file for a review, 2 others will join the panel. And so you hope that they will be able to have a second opinion. But that is a decision that they will have to decide whether to exercise or not. And one thing that the lawyers will also be looking to assess is the fact that if it's a 7-member panel and all 7 agreed that your case is not a case of merit, and so when you are going for 2 people are going to join for a review, it means that you're expecting 9 people to now turn around, including the 7 that disagree with you at the first instance. But all those are matters that the Dynamic Youth Movement of Ghana would have to come to a decision once they study the judgment of the court as to whether they want to go for a review or not. But that will be the last option. Once they exhaust that review mechanism, then it's done and dusted, and there will no longer be any legal issues related to this bond matter.
Taking you next to the Ashanti region, where leadership of the Ashanti Business Owners Association, ABUA, says the economic uncertainty in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic is affecting members. Members of the association, who mostly deal in fast-moving consumer goods and employ thousands of people, project shortages of such products in the next 2 months. Executive Secretary Charles Appiah says government stimulus package must be swift to support them stay in business.
Sales and business obviously have slowed down, but there are other constant obligations that have not changed. One, your loan repayment to the bank has not changed, GRA has not changed, your rent has not changed, your salaries have also changed. So there's a huge outflow, but low inflow, so which has affected the way our members operate. And for us to really observe the health protocols, that is social distancing, it comes with some cost component. You must make sure you have enough space, you have to make sure you have your urinary care bucket, you must make sure you distance your customers. Some of them cannot wait, they have to leave the queue, and that of course affects your projected sales for the day. And the other side of the whole issue is members are not sure of the next line of action to be taken by government. So making business projections also become very difficult. And you can just imagine working in an industry that you don't know what's going to happen. The uncertainty makes it difficult for you to invest right. Because if you don't take care and you invest certain money into it, and there's another lockdown, where you're going to recuperate it to pay back where you pick it from. So it has stagnated businesses, it has stagnated our revenue, but there's a demand for us to pay our loans. Demand for tax payment from GRA is also there. I have letters from GRA that asking our members to pay their last quarter, what they call it, tax obligations. Cash inflows have been affected. So it is time for us to situate ourselves so well as people, as a country. GRA needs money, of course, the government needs to run its economic policies. Business also have been affected. How do we have a balance so that at least we cushion ourselves within this period? Yes, there's directive, there's government stimuli to support businesses, but it must be swift. As now we've not enjoyed those stimulus. It is important we get it as early as possible to avert any negative effect on our businesses. Our business is basically FMCGs, all right? So you have a creditor, you have a supplier, all those things. And creditors have reduced their credit lines because, as I said early on, you're not sure what's going to happen tomorrow. So you are so careful how you invest. So if I have to supply maybe some goods to you and at a tune of maybe 100,000 Ghana cedis, and probably give you 2 weeks holiday payment, now I have to reduce it. They are reducing it. Maybe I'll give you 50,000 worth of goods. I want to give you about a week for you to pay. It puts stress in businesses, all right? So all these things have gotten some negative repercussions on the way we do our business now. Foreign partners that were producing have reduced their production, or some of them have closed shop. So it has affected, movement of goods from one country to the other. So the foreseeable future, the next 3 months, is possible we're going to have shortages in some of these items.
That's dire. Well, before we go tonight, crude oil hovering around $30 a barrel after a significant gain. Here's how we are ending the day on the commodity market. And that's it for business on Joy News Prime. Gary R. Smith standing by with some more sports news for you. Do stay tuned.
Thank you for staying with us. I'm back with the second part of the sport. I'm Gary Al Smith. Former Black Stars defender Joe Addo, who is also a former Hearts of Oak player, who later became the international relations manager of the club, has revealed his best ever captain at the Black Stars level. He says it's a certain number 10 you would know.
I went to the Black Stars in '89. Sam Dodu, may his soul rest in peace. He invited me to the team. I was very, very young. I was still playing for under 20s, I think, when I was invited into the team. And Pokunti was the captain. And then it became Kwesi Appiah for a while. And then Bukat Caesar came and changed things and made Abedi the captain. For all my time that I played in the national team, Abedi was the best captain I ever had. He was unbelievable. I mean, he was so disciplined, more disciplined than we. Because we sometimes we joke, we have fun in training, you know, we take it as, you know, it's all right. When he is in camp, everything changes. The way you see him train is the same way you see him play. He doesn't joke. On the field, everybody is his enemy. Even when you're playing 2-on-2 with Abedi and you are on his team, it's two of you, and you lose, you are in trouble. He doesn't want to lose. That was in his nature. So there were things that he did that was like overbearing to some of us. Because when he came, or when he comes to camp, he makes sure we eat on time, he makes sure we sleep on time, and we weren't used to those things. So a lot of people didn't get it. You know, what this guy, what does he want? Why does he want me to sleep? And he will come literally and come and turn off your lights. You turn your light off. He wants you to sleep so you can have energy to play the game the next day. Some of us took it okay. Some people didn't take it, you know, lightly. They were like, wow, he's too controlling. But for me, he was the best captain. And then on top of that, when we went to play on the field, he was better than all of us. I mean, apart from him being the captain, he was so good. And some of you saw him. Some of these you young guys, you might have seen what Abedi did. But it's unbelievable. Yeah. And even the matches, you don't see anything. You have to come watch him in training. Okay. It's amazing what he does. And you look at him and you would want to be the same. And those days he was trying to teach us how to be professionals. But some of us didn't get it. Some of us did. And the people who didn't get it were the ones who had problems with him. But for me, I think he was a great leader.
Abedi was a wee little boy in 1982 when Ghana last won the Africa Cup of Nations. Of course, Joe Addo would later join him in the Black Stars, but they would never win when Joe Addo was there. And they've never won, and they still haven't won till now. He reckons there's a certain reason why the national team are without another star since '82.
Football is different percentages, you know, to come to 100%. And I think luck is part of the percentages. You have to have a lot of luck. And that has eluded us for a while. I mean, we've been to 2 finals on penalties and lost both. You know, it doesn't really happen, but it's happened to us. So I would say that part of it is luck. I won't say preparation, because my time we used to prepare a lot. You know, in Winneba, sometimes we'll be in camp the whole year to prepare.
The whole year?
Yeah.
The whole year?
Yeah, the local players will be in camp the whole year.
I see.
We go to our clubs to go and play, but after the games we go back to camp. You know, so some of us became families and friends, and I still have a friend that I used to play with from under 17, under 20, under 23, Black Stars, and he's still my friend up till today, because we grew up together and we were always in camp. So I wouldn't say that preparation was part of it. Luck, sometimes discipline, distraction, you know, so those would be some of the factors why we haven't gone all the way, because the talent is there. We had a lot of talent, but to jump the hurdle to the next level, we didn't have that. We didn't have that. I would say that few people did, you know. Abedi for sure, I know, had that in mind. But players like myself, you know, I always had school. So I always had something I could fall on. So I wasn't as dedicated as some of the guys.
Yeah. You mentioned distractions. Which kinds of distractions, if I may ask?
Bickering here and there, you know, infighting, you know, things that shouldn't be a big deal, you know. So we would just
like
arguments in camp. I remember there was a time, you know, when we go to camp, we play cards. And I'm giving you too much secrets, but it's okay.
I mean, Joe Addo's interview with Nathaniel Ato on Saturday was Really good. You should find it on Facebook. Still on the subject of the national team, and a couple of months ago, CK Akono was given the job as the latest to helm the squad, but Wilfred Osei-Kweku, in the series of interviews that we've been serializing, says he's not happy with the way the GFA got CK to man the national team.
You ask yourself, if you can handpick every national team coach and place him there, wherein lies the transparency? Okay, you have to standardize the way you go about the recruitment process, because the technical team of any team plays a critical role in terms of going forward. We have handpicked every head coach for the respective national teams up to the Blasters level. Has it always been the case? I quite remember when Kwesi was there, we allowed every coach to apply, even the under 17, the under 16, up to the highest level. They all applied. Interviews were conducted by the technical team for a selection process to be made. The moment you do that, you have practiced what in corporate governance is called transparency. It's not only when it comes to certain aspects of your operations where you emphasize on the tenets of transparency. No, it has been demonstrated everywhere. I've not been happy with the way some members of the technical team of the national teams were selected. We could have done it even in Congress, where everybody will be there and we'll all be able to contribute.
That's it for the sport for today. Thank you for your time. I'm Gary Al Smith. We'll be back after this commercial.
Time now for the interactive segment. You know how to join the conversation. It's on facebook.com/joynewsontv. On Twitter, it's on Joy News on TV, and on Instagram on Joy News on TV. And we've been talking sports and Ghana Football Association. We're talking about how reluctant it has been to make a definite decision on the future of the suspended 2019-2020 football season. And we posted this a while ago on Facebook. It's generated a lot of comments. Let's check out 5 shares, 75 likes. Let's look at some of your comments over there. And okay, so we're trying to get the comments on that for you. And but Israel, you've been following this. Okay, so Israel, I think Israel is having a challenge hearing me from the studio, but there's been a number of comments on this. You may go on the Joy News page to read those comments. Well, that'll be it for the interactive segment, and also that'll be it for the bulletin tonight. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for watching. I've been doing this with Israel Lai, and on behalf of the rest of the production team, have a great evening. PM Express is up next. Please stay with us.